This is just a journal of me reviewing and analyzing my pre-market analysis for each of the days that's just gone by in the first week of September. So starting the 2nd of September up to 6th of September, which is also NFP week on Friday. I'm essentially watching my videos of the pre-market analysis that I've done every day and going over them with notes and trying to understand what my predictions were for the day and what changed during the day or what changed the next day. Just try to understand, myself and my understanding of price action. So going into the week, I acknowledged we took out a monthly time frame, buy side liquidity, came into this monthly time frame fair value gaps, consequent encouragement, and held. We held that almost twice in 2 weeks, and going into the week, I was expecting price to come into this weekly time frame fair value gaps 50% in consequent encroachment at least, because to me we took out quite a strong buy side liquidity, tapped into a imbalance, and whenever I see, whenever from my own understanding of market and my own experience, I've seen those quite often, and I believe price can come down to at least that 50% level of that weekly time frame fair value gap. So going into the week, I was looking at areas that price could potentially pull back into before dropping into that area. So my first level was going into Monday, which was bank holiday in US, and for that reason I wasn't really looking for any trades. I was waiting for price to pull into this bearish inverse fair value gap, which price closed below, with this bearish candle before, and I was expecting something like price pulling into this 50% level and then dropping down to at least the 1.3075 level, which is the start of this daily time frame fair value gap, inside that weekly time frame fair value gap. But ideally I wanted price to come down to 1.30 level, which is the one below that 50% consequent encroachment of that weekly time frame fair value gap, and also there is a daily time frame fair value gap right there. So that was my prediction going into the week. Price does come into the 50% off this bearish inverse fair value gap, however, and then drops, right, as was my prediction, but it drops on Tuesday, and I didn't really look for an entry on Monday, so that was price already made its move. And going into Tuesday and Wednesday, I was still expecting price to come down to this level. However, we push up, and then we come back into the monthly time for fair value gaps, consequent encroachment one more time, and reject it with a strong bearish rejection candle. It might turn out that my prediction is still in play, so price might still come down to this 50% off the weekly time from fair value gap. It's just that I was a little bit early with my prediction and way too keen. We pulled up, got that pullback. Now maybe we'll get that push back down. Had I gone into the week with a bullish mindset, so in my head thinking price is going to be bullish for the week, then this would have been a good place to look for entry. So essentially waiting for previous week's lows to be taken out, which price especially on a Monday it holds, which is a good sign, and then on Tuesday price comes down, takes out that liquidity of previous day as well. So Monday lows taken out and also previous week's lows taken out. And also taps into that weekly time frame fair value gap. It would have been a good place to take the entry for the pullback. However, for me, I was still expecting price to drop down to this daily time frame fair value gap to look for any long opportunities. So I'm not. There is no, guilt. Not guilt. There's no FOMO for me here of me missing a trade, because I would ideally want to see the internal range liquidity to be taken out before price pushes up and then push back down. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I want to see price pull back in first and then go down and take out that internal range liquidity, especially after taking out external range liquidity on the monthly time frame. Going into Tuesday, I acknowledged that we rejected this 50% of this bearish inverse fair value gap, 1.31557 level, and I was expecting price to come down to the 240 equal lows just above that daily time frame fair value gap at 1.3075 level. And yep, I saw, price had started to displace in the morning with this bearish fair value gaps. However, I saw this displacement in the morning, after price took out these highs, order blocks formed, displacement, and then I saw price took out these lows, and because price took out these lows, I didn't want to take entries back down to this low again, because it just rejected previous week's lows. However, my prediction was still down to that low, and as you can see, price did come into that level, pushed down, wicked above one more time, took out these highs, and then dropped. However, it does not drop down to that 240 equal lows as I had been anticipating the whole week, or especially in the early part of the weeks, because that was my drawn liquidity going into the week. And before we got that, we started to push up first, and then maybe we'll come back down later to that level next week. That is the 1.3075 level. So yeah, I could have taken a trade, on this pullback, which would have been my entry at 618, down to at least these lows to start off with. However, before we even get that low, we failed to get down to that level. We pull up, took out these highs. My stops would have been above this high anyway. However, I would have had to go through a drawdown where price comes close to my target, pushes up above, swing high, and that would have been quite difficult to hold on to, especially with my psychology. I would have, cracked under the pressure and definitely taken a loss. I know that for sure. And then, but we got another entry after price took out this high, which I wasn't looking at, but that was another way I could have entered if I wanted to. But because we rejected the previous week's low, I anticipated or predicted that maybe we'll push up higher first and then come back down, which we eventually do push up. I'm not sure when it will come back down. So after Tuesday's candle, this bearish engulfing candle that took out previous week's low and Monday's low, my prediction for price to go down to this 1.307 level, 75 level, was even stronger, and I expected price to drop down to that level. However, because on the 240 time frame we rejected, the lowest fair value gaps over here, and price also formed a retest on the 60-minute that took out liquidity up to the previous low and started to displace. And after seeing this displacement up, it was one of the main reasons why I stopped, or why I wanted to wait for further confirmation to go short. And then price finds, further bullish displacement, and this would have been a great place to look for a short right above those highs at that 60-minute fair value gap, which is something I missed on the day. However, also going into Wednesday, because we were so close to this 240 equal lows above a daily time fair value gap at the 1.3075 level, and we're putting this strong bearish engulfing candle, I was watching for price to take a shorting opportunity, especially in discount, because of the fact that we were so close to this draw on liquidity. But I also noted, as price started to displace up, we closed above this bearish fair value gap, and one thing I did note was that we started to accumulate, right? This is accumulation during Asian range, and that we could potentially push up during London session at least to these highs, these fair value gaps, and find some kind of a resistance. But seeing price play out in this fashion, where it took out Asian low and pushed up, creating these three equal lows, like essentially a good liquidity level for price to drop down to, I stopped looking for trading opportunities below this level. By this level I mean 1.31 level. We also had news coming out on Wednesday at 3 p.m. I believe, which was the jobs opening. So I wanted to wait for that before looking for any opportunities, especially after rejecting the Asian lows during London session. And that's exactly what we get. We get a push up to these highs above this high at this fair value gap on the 60-minute at around 1.317, just below that order block as well, and we find some resistance. With pound dollar going to Thursday, I honestly, my pre-market analysis, I was quite honest, I wasn't really sure where price was going to go, because the whole week I was anticipating price to come down to these equal lows above this daily time for fair value gap at 1.307775 level. But before price even reaches that level, we start to displace bullish after rejecting these bullish fair value gaps on the 240 time frame at around 1.31 level, which is a good psychological level. And you can see stronger displacement on the 60-minute with bullish fair value gaps holding along the way. And on going to Thursday, I just did not have a Scooby of what price was going to do. And price does go close bullish on Thursday, so it was good that I just sat out and didn't really do anything and just watched market play out, because I didn't have a clue on what market could have done. Going into Friday, I still wasn't sure what price was going to do because it was NFP. However, I did say that maybe we'll come back to this 50% of this monthly time frame fair value gaps consequent encroachment at 1.3220 and find some kind of resistance, and then come down to my initial drawn liquidity, which was 1.3075, which has been the drawn liquidity all week. But because we started to displace up in bullish direction after holding this 1.31 level, I have, my prediction was thrown out the window, and I wasn't really sure what price was going to do. Going into Friday, I was hoping maybe we'll take out the 1.32 level on the 240, which is above this swing on on the lower time frames, way before NFP, so before like 8-9 p.m. UK time, and find some kind of a short trading opportunity. However, I didn't wait for those highs to be taken out, because we had loads of these highs taken out along the way on the 60-minute time frame, where price fails to close above multiple highs in this manner, this pattern, forming a channel, which is something that I look for normally anyway, to look for trading opportunities. So I did take a trade, or a short trade, during London Open, but not on pound dollar. It was on euro dollar, which had similar price action, and I believe it was pound dollar. I exited the trade a little bit early then. Yeah, it was pound dollar. I after taking out these highs, that I really like the way price approached this high, and because I was expecting price to come up to this high, London session, it could drop down to a find liquidity and then push up, which it eventually does pull down and then pushes up before NFP. So yeah, good trading idea. Again, execution was okay, just didn't have the balls to hold the trade, mainly because it's NFP day and I was shitting my pants. And then NFP came out, we took out, we came in, tapped into that 50% off that bearish fair value gap on the daily time frame at that consequent encroachment at 1.322, and held with this strong bearish engulfing candle. So going into next week, my drawn liquidity is this midpoint of this fair value gap, around 1.303 level. So yeah, prediction wise, good drawn liquidity going into the week. It's just the fact that price wanted to pull back deeper into that 50% and reject that one more time before coming down. So that's that for my analysis for pound dollar.